Hey, while I'm thinking about it, can you call my doctor and have him send over another treatment? That would be great. I appreciate it. And the one, and the two, and the five. Did it beep bop boop bop. Boo da da ba 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 ba. It's Wednesday. So I was thinking if maybe you guys want to pick of the week. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Kind of I wouldn't say a light week exactly, but again, a week where I'm not trying new things. That's my new thing to try in 20. Oh, I just heard it. All right. First this week, I bought The Old Guard, Tales Through Time, #1 of 6. Yes. This is the third volume of The Old Guard. This is, I believe, this is a series created by Greg Rucka and Leandro Fernandez, but I think this is going to be more of an anthology series. If you're not familiar, and I think you might be, because they made this comic book into a television program recently. The premise is that the Old Guard are a group of mercenaries who are also immortal, and so they've just, for lack of anything better to do, and for the fact that they don't ever actually die, they have just been soldiers their whole existences. And the first two series were about the Old Guard and their, battles against mortality. This is, I believe, an anthology of stories that just kind of take place in different battles, different wars and stuff like that. So we see more of the universe. I like the series a lot. I have both volumes thus far. I think they're 2 6-issue series. I didn't watch the show, which I'm not going to make clear to people anymore. I got off my stack of phone books here. I like the comic, but I don't honestly remember much beyond enjoying it. So, but I have no problem picking up this series as well. And then I also got Way of X #1. This is written by Simon Spurrier, who wrote, what is the X book he was just writing? Jeez, I feel like I was just talking about it. Well, he used to write Legion, and it's the Black Knight series. That's what he's writing for Marvel right now. Simon Spurrier is a British writer who I like very much. The premise of this one, I'm not 100% on, but it's a Nightcrawler centric, and I think that's what it is. I think there's a kind of mutant cult, or a human worshipping, of humans who worship mutants as gods, but they're up to some stuff that Nightcrawler and his strict Christian upbringing does not approve of. And then I think it goes from there. I don't care. It's an X book. I should have just written that down instead. Picked out the week, and then the last week, So last week, I didn't get as much reading in last week as I would have liked, because I got the second shot of my vaccine, and the side effects gave me a big one of these, a double. So that was my week, essentially. But I did get this stuff read before the horror kicked in. And it'll begin as follows. First up, Dark Hawk, Heart of the Hawk, #1. This was fun. I didn't need to buy it. I could have waited for it on the thing. I think they are going to give Dark Hawk a series again, which is still crazy. So the first story in this was by Chris Manley, or is it Mike Manley? Mike Manley and Danny Fingeroth. Danny Fingeroth is the writer. Mike Manley is the artist. They were the original creative team on Dark Hawk. And, well, Fingeroth is a creator, along with Tom DeFalco is also listed as a co-creator, but I have a feeling at this point, I don't know why it never sunk in before, not to disparage Tom DeFalco and his reign as editor-in-chief at Marvel, because he was a writer himself, and I think he was, I don't remember from the How book now, but when I was a kid, Tom DeFalco was a presence at Marvel in a similar way that Stan Lee had been in the old days. Obviously he wasn't as big a deal as Stan Lee, but they would often write little comic strips in the bullpen bulletins about him and stuff. And he's like this big New York guy, and they always had him with a cigar and a real thick New York accent. And so he seemed like he seemed well liked. I think, in fact, yeah, I think I've read stuff where people are like, nobody didn't like Tom DeFalco. But he has co-creator credits on so many characters of my childhood that I'm a little dubious on whether or not he might have just, stuck his name on there. Doesn't matter. The first story is like of the classic Darkhawk era. It takes place like right after issue 3 or something like that. I looked at the app too, and I'd only read the first 2 issues a couple of years back, and I did enjoy them, but I wasn't in a hurry to finish them all. And then there's like 2 more stories that there was one that takes place right after War of Kings, which is when Darkhawk, to my recollection, kind of got reintroduced as more of a cosmic hero than a street level vigilante, which is how he had been originally conceived. A street level vigilante, but powered by a cosmic jewel. So eventually they kind of put him over in with like the Guardians and stuff like that. And then the final story is like the real Darkhawk stuff where, is that right? Yeah, where this armor that like he found this jewel, and it gave him this armor with the power therein. And it turned out that this is the armor of the Raptors, who are a species, an alien species that are feared throughout the galaxy because they are, as the name might imply, huge fans of Jurassic Park. I also read Spider-Man Spider Shadow #1. This was fun. This is just like I was saying, this is like a what if. Starsky writes a fun little thing in the back, kind of giving a history. And I think I said last week that it had started in 75 when it was in fact 77. That time is hazy for me. I had just been born. I was like, well, give me a second. I can start remembering some of this stuff. But yeah, this is really fun. In the original storyline, Spider-Man gets his black costume while he's on Battle World during the Secret Wars, and it starts to slowly take him over. He goes to the Baxter building to Reed Richards' Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four, and is like, hey, can you check this costume out? Something's weird. I've been wearing an alien costume for months on end, and things are starting to get a little strange, wouldn't you know? So once Reed was like, oh yeah, this thing is actually taking your body over, Peter freaks out, and they have to shoot it with a sonic cannon to get it off of him, because that's Venom's, one of his weaknesses is high frequency sound. And, but in this story, Peter's like, well, you can blow it out your pants, because this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And we see the symbiote starting to bond with him mentally. And so it's like, ooh, okay, now it's going to get... Whew. It was really good. I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. Also, speaking of Chip Zdarsky, the Silver Coin #1. I expressed some reluctance because usually when you mix rock and roll with comics, it's really lame. This was not really lame. I was pleasantly surprised. And I'm surprised. I always say that. That's like my default position, is that rock and roll and comics don't mix in the comic book sphere. I love rock and roll about comic books. Even a lot of that is not great. So, but yeah, this is really good. Our lead character here finds this silver coin amongst his mother's stuff she had bailed, and he starts using it to play. And it takes place in the late 70s, so the rock band that he's in isn't doing great because everybody wants disco now. But he starts playing with the coin instead of a pick, and it's magical, and it makes they've become very popular all of a sudden. But then it goes awry, wouldn't you know? Another monkey's paw wish granted. So yeah, it's fun. And then the next issue, so like I was saying, I believe I was saying, it's an anthology series, and I think we're just going to kind of follow this coin as it ruins life after life. I mean, sci-fi or horror anthologies and comics are nothing new. It goes all the way back to Tales from the Crypt, but there seem to be more of them. I think W. Maxwell Prince might have like tapped into something with Ice Cream Man, and now with Haha, that more images like, oh, okay, well, let's put out more of these horror anthologies then. The end. Oh, and then also, I didn't show this to you last week. I don't know if I've shown it to you all. I read Icehaven this past week. I've had this book for a while, but I hadn't realized it's like 15 years old. And it's a pretty quick read, so I read it again. This is another Dan Clowes book. I can't say enough about it. So Dan Clowes created a comic book called 8 Ball, speaking of anthologies, where, you know, he started with, there would be one main story, and in the first arc it was called like a velvet glove cast in iron, and then there would be a lot of other 1 to 2 page comics and some strips and stuff, and some of them were silly and some of them were a little more, not serious, I would say, but certainly they're all very dark. Like, he tends to run kind of to the darker side of things. And a book like Icehaven was, honestly, when I read this, I was like, this is possibly the most Daniel Clowes book I'd ever read in my life. It takes place in a small American Midwestern suburb, not unlike where he grew up. And it's full of weird characters and frustrated single men. Frustrated single men and confused teenage girls. That's who Daniel Clowes writes stories about, and I love it. I mean, I don't like to think too hard on the implications of why he's particularly obsessed with those archetypes, but that's not for me to conjecture. Ugh, let's picture last week. I'm gonna cut this short because I'm sick of doing 20-minute versions of this stupid thing, and also I just kind of want to lay down for a minute, but. That's our show, everybody. Well, come back next week to the blank backing board show. That's what we're changing the name. Didn't I tell you? I'm pretty sure I told you.